a modicum of real things on Brexit. For the last couple of years, Brexit becomes a buzzword of the world. It casts the attention from the whole world. Especially the politically conscious people have an eye over the event of Brexit. The global changes, the political atmosphere of the cosmopolitan become highly affected by Brexit. Brexit is an abbreviation for British exit, referring to the UK's pronouncement in a June 23, 2016 referendum to leave the European Union, EU. It was a landslide victory over the issue to make an exit of British from EU. It cast a pivotal effect on Scotland also. The vote's result confronted expectations and roiled global markets, causing the British pound to fall to its lowest level against the dollar in 30 years. Prime Minister David Cameron, who called the referendum and campaigned for Britain to remain in the EU, resigned the following month. Home Secretary Theresa May replaced him as leader of the Conservative Party and as Prime Minister. Following a snap election on June 8, 2017, she remains Prime Minister. The Conservatives have lost their outright majority in Parliament, nonetheless, and with it, May's critics argue, a mandate for a hard Brexit, in which Britain leaves the EU's single market and customs union. Sources found from the contemporary newspaper of the World. In the referendum regarding Brexit, the two options were being judged. One is leave and the another is remain. Leave won the June 2016 referendum with 51.9% of the ballot, or 17.4 million votes. Remain received 48.1%, or 16.1 million. Turnout was 72.2%. The results were tallied on a UK-wide basis, but the overall figures conceal austere regional differences. 53.4% of English voters supported Brexit, compared to just 38.0% of Scottish voters. The result causes a ground for England to exit the EU. Because England accounts for the vast majority of the UK's population, support there persuaded the result in Brexit's favour. It was seen also, Scotland and Northern Ireland, Brexit would have received just 43.6% of the vote if the vote had been conducted only in Wales, where Leave also won. Data sources found from Wikipedia and some foreign journals. The process started long before and finally executed on 2017. Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty played a significant role for Brexit. The process of leaving the EU formally began on March 29, 2017, when May triggered Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty. The UK has 2 years from that day to negotiate a new relationship with the EU. It is notable here that Britain's constitution is tacit and unrecorded. Multilateral discussion began on June 19. Issues and query have turned around the process, in part because Britain's constitution is verily unique in its style and pattern. No country has left the EU using Article 50 before Algeria left the EU's predecessor through its independence from France in 1962, and Greenland, a self-governing Danish territory, left through a special treaty in 1985. A divorce treaty had been made between Britain and EU for executing Brexit. It is apparently very harsh contact, but it carried so many good implications. The separations of British from EU caused so many adverse effects for others. Especially it caused some inconveniences for Ireland, Scotland, etc. On December 8, British and EU negotiators announced an agreement regarding the country's divorce settlement with the bloc. Britain will pay an exit bill of £35 billion to £39 billion. There will be no hard border between Northern Ireland, part of the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, an EU member, and EU citizens in Britain, and vice versa, will retain a number of key rights. The agreement paves the way for talks on Britain's future relationship with the EU, which had been delayed by gridlock over the issues involved in divorce. Several times, North Ireland and Scotland faces some silent catastrophe due to the Brexit event. The two kingpins worked for it and played the role of key conductor. Britain's lead negotiator in the talks with Brussels is David Davis, a Yorkshire MP, at the same time as the EU's is Michel Barnier, a French politician. Introductory talks about talks exposed divisions in the two sides' approaches to the process. The UK wanted to parley the terms of its extraction and pulling out alongside the terms of its post-Brexit rapport and liaison with Europe, while Brussels hunted to make sufficient progress on divorce terms by October, only then moving on to a trade deal. This trade deal was the moot point for the agreement. In an indulgence that both pro- and anti-Brexit commentators took as a sign of Achilles' heel and flaw, British negotiators acknowledged the EU's sequenced approach. Due to the tight two-year window set by Article 50, Britain is seeking an in-between period in which to put an end to its post-Brexit relationship with the EU. This intention in seeking the halfway period, the intermediary session, transitional period paved the way of Brexit easier for the British. The divorce term, we may call it separation, split term, annulment or breakup term effectuated the exit of British from EU heavily with good fruits and results and turned others on a shaky position. The desired progress may not be true on all-out effort. The press release carried the testimony of that issue. On October 12 Barnier told the press conference that sufficient progress had not been achieved, describing the talks as stalled in a very disturbing state of deadlock and bringing up the specter of no deal. On December 8, however, the two sides released a joint statement describing an agreement in principle regarding the most complicated separation issues, paving the way for talks about a future trade relationship to begin. Though the deal was mired and slowed down, but finally it pokes the rises of sun in the light of the expected treaty. With just over a year remaining until the scheduled exit date of March 29, 2019, however, the complicated negotiations will have to proceed rapidly, or the EU's 27 remaining members will have to agree unanimously to extend the deadline. The Brexit seemingly may beget benefit for Britain, but in the long run it will make harm for other members of EU countries, and obviously it will cast an adverse effect on global trade and global economy. It yield benefit for one and harm for many. Yet, we are staring at the real scenario that will happen later, and we do wait for the prudential analysis and judicious doctrines from the global economic consultant and the global scholars. Written by M.D. Saiful Islam Muslim. The author is a banker and a columnist.